Hey Sharon, how's it going today?
Hey Rick, it's good. And you?
Pretty good. Just wanted to talk to you about this article that I read recently from CBC. The article's called "Why Some Canadians Are Buying Houses Without the Help of a Realtor,"
Yep.
and I thought this would be an excellent opportunity to address that because, of course, selling a house, there's fees for the buying realtor and fees for the selling realtor. So why shouldn't Canadians just save themselves a whole bunch of money and just do it themselves?
Yeah, that's a good question actually. And and I've known of people that have bought and sold privately, and they've, it's gone off without a hitch. And I say congratulations for making it happen. Whatever your comfort level is in buying a home is the route you take. And there are things that I've done. I personally, like long years before I got a real estate license as well, I did some things. And now, knowing what I know in the industry, seeing what I've seen, I've seen some pretty crazy stuff out there. And I guess for a buyer, if they absolutely have all of the knowledge and the skills and the expertise and they feel comfortable making that decision, then for sure. But they do need to ask themselves a few things. They need to ask themselves, number one, do I have the experience and knowledge I need? Do I know everything about this house that I need to know, about this neighborhood that I need to know, about the current market conditions? And I mean, real estate is not a simple process. For me, I'm in it full time, 24/7, and I'm constantly having to stay up on top of what's happening in a neighborhood, or new things that come to light that we need to pay attention to in the market. So so that's one thing. So even the real estate buying process itself, like how much information do you actually even have about all the other properties that sold? Like, how comparable are they? On the surface, you can say this house sold for this price, so this one is worth that much. But what is the condition on the interior? What kind of upgrades were done? How was the maintenance? What is the square footage? What kind of did they build a backyard oasis? Or is the home, like in original condition and has asbestos in the ceilings and in the floor tiles and things like that? And the electrical, if that's been upgraded, if the plumbing has been upgraded. So there's a lot of questions which most likely we have seen those other houses because we're out in them all day long. So being able to know the true value of the home. Then there is the legal aspects of the paperwork and making sure they know the whole legal process, so there doesn't come any problem. But I think even with all of that, I think there's two bigger things at play. I think, for example, if you're buying a home, there is no advocacy on your part. If you're not working with a realtor, you don't have someone fighting for negotiating a price or terms or any other aspect. I sell a lot of homes every single year, and I haven't yet had two sales that are like. So every house comes with its own story, and so we need to be able to. And I think, like, as you go out in the homes, I see one home, I see what they want me to see in that home. But if I'm out and I've seen 50 homes in that neighborhood, I get to know a lot more in detail about the builders that have made those homes and about any issues that are with those homes. For example, another thing is the overpricing. When I sell my own homes now, I actually don't sell them myself, and I'm a realtor because I'm emotionally involved in the home. And even in my industry, and knowing all of these things that happen, and knowing the cues to watch out for with my clients and advise them, when it came to selling my own property, I was shocked how emotionally attached I was to it. And emotional attachment has a value, and we translate that value to dollars. So we have to be very careful that the home is not overpriced, right? So If you're working with a FSBO, that would be, for example. The
Sorry,
lack,
which one?
the lack of disclosure. So if you've got structural problems, plumbing issues, electrical issues, for example, Rick, one that we've been discussing this last week or so, the home had a expropriation with the township, and the home is also under conservation authority, so they can't do any changes to the home or to the property. The home was also in a high floodplain area, so that also would affect insurance. And then in addition to that, all of that, there were trees that could not be touched because it was under another conservation protection. So there was literally nothing to this property that can be done. And if you sell that property, as a real estate agent, I personally will not sell that property unless first I have my client sign all of those disclosures. And that would be a lot of disclosures. And in fact, there would be so many disclosures in that case that I would ask them to also speak with a lawyer even before we put it on the market. But if, they don't go that route and they just want to put it on the market, or go FSBO, and a person comes in to buy it privately, do they know all of those things?
Sorry, you keep saying FSBO. What is FSBO?
Sorry, for sale by owner.
Okay.
So if you're going in and for example, the owner doesn't know, maybe they don't know they should disclose all of that, or maybe they don't want to disclose all of that, and they assume by selling it themselves, they are not required to do so. Now, you buy the home, you're going in and buying the home also without representation. And that home, you find out a year down the road that you can't build a porch, you can't build a garage, you can't do anything, and you can't sell it. Well, you can, but who's going to buy it knowing all of these stipulations are on it? So if they find all of this fact out after the fact, now you've got a lawsuit that's going to go on for some time. And so and for a buyer, like you asked me at the beginning about like not paying commissions, and I think that is often the depth of scope that most people see. Like, well, I don't have to pay a commission. Well, if you're paying overpriced, like if you're buying a house, you're not paying the commission anyway. And so it's wise for you to have those eyes on there, on that property for you, working for you on all of those issues and all of the numbers. You're hoping it's a nice, clean sale, but you don't know that if you don't know what to look for.
So
right? You don't know what you don't know.
Of course. So let's say I'm thinking of making a home purchase. When in the process should I reach out to the realtor?
I would have you reach out as soon as you're even thinking about it.
And would I just call like the house that I'm interested in, or?
I would get yourself a good lawyer, because you can call the listing agent of a property if it's listed on the MLS. But remember, that agent is their primary responsibility is to represent the seller. So they will only disclose what they're required by law and no more. Whereas if you have an agent under buyer contract for you, then they will be digging into all of that, and they will be disclosing everything they find out. They will be out there fighting on your behalf, checking out all of that thing to make sure this is all kosher, to make sure that any town stipulations, even heritage homes, right? Like, it's not clear that all homes are heritage homes. Which ones are heritage homes? And it's not clear then if the entire home is under heritage, or if only certain aspects of the home. I remember showing one home on the market, and I pulled information and realized that there was heritage status on the home, but in its heyday, it was a hotel.
Okay.
And now it's a house, and it had been a residential home for a lot of years, but they had a heritage status on the stairway. So only the stairway, the stairs, and the railing. You couldn't do anything with that in that house.
Weird.
You could change everything else, but you couldn't change the stairway and the railings.
So let's look at the other side of the equation. Say I want to sell my house. So it's not a good idea to do it by myself unless I'm really knowledgeable. And even in that case, it might be a bad decision because I'm going to be too emotional, too emotionally involved, I should say. But maybe shouldn't I just get like the realtor that's advertising 1% commission? Save myself a lot of money that way.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If you, I didn't get the context.
So I'm selling a house, and it's probably a bad choice for me to just sell it privately myself because unless I've got all that knowledge, and then even then, as you said, like you might be too emotionally involved with the process to be objective. So why not just get like you see ads all the time, 1% commission? Why should I just use one of those guys?
That's up to you. And that's the beauty of the market that you're in. You can go with yourself. You can go with a 1%. You can go with a full service. There is the thing out there that says you get what you pay for. And sometimes that is true with that too. Oftentimes. So if the agent is knowledgeable, if they're giving you the service, so you can decide how much you want to take on yourself and how much you want someone else to do. Okay. So if you've gotten, and I have run across it so many times, I have met someone and it was a 1% commission. And because it was a 1% commission, they could never get the agent to answer their calls, to answer their emails or their text. And often what happens is the ones that list it for 1%, they're not doing anything. I'm scared to use the word extra because for me, it's a normal part of my service. As a full service agent, I make sure that your home, I'll guide you on how the presentation for your home and how to sell it. I will make sure the photography is professional. I will make sure that we have a streamlined system so you're not aggravated, so you're able to show the home, you're able to see the home, that the people going in are vetted through our system. So we know that the agents that people call in, they say they're an agent, they're licensed. Well, we know because they're in the system. If they're not in the system, we don't let them go through because we can't vet who they are. So your safety is at risk. There's a lot of things. So oftentimes when someone lists at 1%, it is strictly a listing service. And I think a lot of people don't realize that until they're in the middle of the listing and they're saying, well, I called my agent. I've gone into homes and they ask me questions and I say, but you need to talk with your agent on that. I'm not your listing agent. And they would be, well, we can't reach them. We can't, it's not, they're not responding to things. And I'm like, well, what kind of contract did you have with them? I mean, I don't want you to disclose to me the things, but whatever you signed with him for the services that you're getting from him. So, and it came out that it was a 1% listing and they were just listing it for them, no services.
Okay. So 10 grand, if it's $1 million house, it would be 10 grand just to be put on MLS, basically.
Exactly. But you're not getting anything else for that. So you're not getting the service. So that all you're buying is the exposure to MLS.
Right.
But what good is that exposure if you can't get the service that comes along with the reason that you were listed on the MLS? If the only reason, you want the service, I just want you to put on MLS for me. I can do everything else myself. Okay, no problem.
And of course, you still have to pay the buying agent commission on top of that one.
And you're going to pay the full market commission, or the buying agent and the clients are less inclined to see it,
right.
Because then the buying agent will say, well, number one, we don't show it for that, that low a fee, which legally, they're not supposed to do that. But on the other hand, they will take it and say to the client, look, this one is 1%. And so therefore, you need to pay me the difference up to 2.5%. And not many buyers can come up with that down with their closing costs. And so they'd be like, we're not comfortable doing that. And so then they don't do it and they go on to other homes.
I see. Okay.
So and then on top of that, not only did you think you saved something on the 1% and not getting people through, but on the other hand, you're going to end up dropping your price because you didn't get people through in time. So you're not getting the offers. More people equals more offers.
So penny wise, pound foolish, basically.
What's penny wise and pound foolish, because you save 10,000, then you're going to drop at 50,000.
Right.
And that's the kind of thing. So you know, and then also when you've got, the other thing I want to mention also on the other hand is that if you've got someone that is not represented properly and they are representing themselves only, when you try and show a home, I have had homes on MLS that I've seen, and they have they're for sale by owner, but they paid a service to have it listed, and we have to contact the owner directly. Trying to get appointments to show that home is brutal. And then they don't know the same procedures, and then sometimes they interfere, and sometimes they're overpowering, you know, and you can't show the house at ease. So a lot of people are already comfortable having a homeowner home, even if they're in the backyard. And so when someone's selling it themselves, they obviously are feel more vested in it because it's their home, but they're emotionally attached, and therefore that comes across because they need to be there to let you in.
Right.
And then you get a whole different dynamic. So you're not able to look at it at ease once you do get in. And then you want to go back a second or a third time, same challenges. Then you got a home inspector that you want to get through. And the home appraiser wants to get through. And these guys are not readily available to let you do that. So they don't understand the amount of work. A lot of people think, hey, listen, I can get a buyer anytime because everybody needs a house. Sure. But there's a process, and it can be, like, I know when I'm taking buyers out, and Rick, you know, in dealing with them just in the finances, how overwhelming this whole process can be. I know how overwhelming it is when I have to sell my own house. It's a whole different set of overwhelming, you know? Yeah. And so I get another agent to list my house. I go hands off because I can't handle it.
Well, and I know that you saved a lot of people a lot of grief because you put in that condition of finance when you're representing the buyer. Because they hadn't gotten their pre-approval, and they thought they qualified and they didn't. So that would have cost them a lot of money if you hadn't put that in there.
And they thought they had a pre-approval because they did the 10-second one online for some of them.
Exactly.
Pre-approval, and they don't. But I mean, again, so it goes way beyond even just that letter of pre-approval, and it goes way beyond what kind of money you can save yourself. So if I've been doing this for a dozen years and I see 4 or 5 homes just about nearly every day, can you imagine how many homes that means I've seen, and the things that we come across, and we learn as we grow. So you're not paying for, you can get someone who has no experience whatsoever in the market, and they'll be like, yeah, you want to pay me 1% just to list your house? Sure. You know, you can get a seasoned agent, but if you want to pay them 1% just to list your house, remember that's the contract you took.
Right.
Don't come back then and be upset with the agent. So it's your responsibility to look at what's going to work well for you. And even if everything is going right, it's a lot of work, right? That's a lot involved, a lot of details, a lot of forms, a lot of complying with government requirements, a lot of making sure doing your due diligence is not a small thing. And so it takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of knowing that you need to check those things out. And I think that's what the most important thing comes out. When you're getting a full service brokerage, you're getting someone with that experience, you're getting that knowledge that goes with it. You're getting that one that says, hey, you know what? Okay, let me check. And sometimes, you know, there's nothing to it, but you get a hunch, you follow it through. What happens if, for example, it compounds, Rick, even as time goes on. Is your seller a Canadian citizen? Because if you buy a house and that seller is not Canadian and you don't go through a process, and I have a process that I use to protect my clients for that as well. And if that seller is non-Canadian and they're out of the country and you buy that house, as unfair as it seems, our government says that seller has to pay taxes because it's a capital gain for them now, and they're not in Canada, they're not a Canadian citizen.
Right.
They have to pay some hefty taxes.
Okay.
And if they don't pay it, you, the buyer, are on the hook to pay those taxes.
Really? Wow.
So now what did you save?
No kidding.
Right? And so, like, I'm just saying that's just another one of those things. But if you take each one of those things and start adding them up, I was shocked last week when I looked at a property and I saw 4 stipulations on it.
Yeah,
but I mean, what's that?
A real minefield of things that can trip you up.
Yeah, and it can really trip you up. And so the problem with it is you put out $1 million. You're not getting something for a couple $100,000. You're talking like, so if I pick up something that's over $1 million, 1.1, 1.2, then you find out you sunk that money in, and these are your stipulations.
Hmm.
You can't get it sold. You're going to try and get the money back from the seller, so you can get them charged. You can get them, you can get a court order. They owe you this kind of money, but you still got to be able to collect it.
Sure. And you might not be able to get a mortgage on the place if it has all those issues with it, right? Because if I'm a lender,
massive amount of time, money. If it's not caught till after you've done it and then moved in, then you've really compounded the problem again.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things. So you've got everything. There's from not knowing what you don't know, right? But that comes down to, in addition to the disclosures, but not only if there's a lack of disclosure, but for you being able to be aware of that area and trying to figure out what could problems be, dealing with townships, talking to them and asking questions, putting the property through their hands. And, it all takes time, and it all takes knowing what to ask.
I see.
Right?
Well, I guess experience is very important.
Yeah. Yeah. So then you come back to your negotiations. If you still want this property with what has been disclosed to you, now you're going to come down to your negotiations, because you will, if you know the impact this has on what is your property worth now with those stipulations on it. So now you have different negotiations. So you want to be able to effectively negotiate those kind of things, right? And then I think too, another thing is, like I will always, with my clients, I'm very, very solid on it. Well, if you don't have it in writing, you don't have it. So I need something that I can put in the contract for you. If it's not in the contract, it didn't happen, even if they say it will. If they do, it's a bonus. So if I'm constantly having to educate myself and pay attention to what's going on and the negotiation tactics and how each different thing impacts a property. So if I make it my policy to make sure I have it in writing, because when it's in writing, it's less chance for misunderstanding and miscommunication.
That makes sense.
And so often if I go out and I go to buy a house from Joe Blow down the street who's selling it himself, does he know the requirements? And do they have, or do you as the buyer have that communication level? Do you understand the importance of having it in contract and having it in writing and how to put it in writing to protect you? Do they understand it? Or is this all just a handshake now because it's so informal anyway? It's a
big purchase to do on a handshake.
It's a big purchase to do on a handshake. It's a big purchase to do without the extra support, the extra guidance, and the extra, it can get really, really stressful. Even when there are no issues, it can get really stressful. That life happens.
Mm.
Knowing what happens, when, and again, yes, you can use a lawyer for everything, but it can get costly if your lawyer is just closing documents that has been vetted by another professional is one thing. If you have closed documents on a property and you've done nothing and these things come out, you're going to pay that bill. You're not going to save the kind of money you think you're saving.
Right. Well, that's great.
Yeah. If the lawyer's got to get involved on every angle. So there is a lot. And if you can do it and you have the skill set and you have that kind of stuff, hey, more power to you. But know what you don't know. Be willing to learn. Be willing to find out. And at the end of the day, you may find that you're a lot better off having an agent put in those kind of hours, put in that kind of due diligence. And that's where it comes back to, knowing the agent, knowing what kind of reputation the agent has in working for their clients.
Well, I guess unless you've already passed the real estate exam, you probably don't know a lot.
Even if you've passed the real estate exam, practical work in the field. Personally, I would love to see it something different in the system. Maybe down the road it'll happen because, you got in all these other fields, you have apprentices where they come under someone and learn. I wish we had that in real estate because people come out of school and they go right out to try and stick a sign in the ground to sell a property or to work with a buyer. and there's no skill set.
Wow.
You know, just like any others, you still need that practicum. You still need those experiences, you know, and working with people, learning unfortunately, what you're learning in real estate school is still so far detached from the reality of the foot on the ground, you know, kind of thing. So, that could do with some changing too. But again, these are folks that will go out, and because they need to build a business, they'll be very, very happy to say, hey, listen, to get in the market, they'll say, hey, I'm doing 1% commissions. They've got nothing to lose. They've got nothing to risk.
Right.
They don't have the knowledge and the skill set. They simply only have a license. That's all they have. And so they do that, and then they'll start cutting their teeth and learning from that. But they're cutting their teeth at your expense. But if that's worth you saving that kind of, you know, not wanting to, if you're okay putting yourself at that risk and your sale at that risk, then by all means, but understand what you're getting into. And I think that's the biggest thing that I would say to anyone, regardless. And then also at the other end, understand what a full service experienced agent can do for you, and what they can, there's things we watch out for that we couldn't, if we took the time to put it in writing, I don't even know how to. Because there's so many things that come so naturally, right? That, you know, I shock myself sometimes when I go looking for one thing on a property, and then I will find out these other things. I'm going, wow, oh my. And I mean, I'm sitting there going, I can't believe this. And I do this every day.
Right.
You know? So, yeah, it requires a lot of attention, and it's the biggest purchase you're ever going to make. And if you're selling again, that's probably the most money you're going to have in your hand at any one time. And you want to make sure that it's done properly for your sake.
That's great, Sharon. I always learn so much from our conversations. And I should just shout out, if you learned anything from watching this or you enjoyed the video, just please like and subscribe below. And we'll see you next time.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
Take care, Ray.
I went and hit the stop recording button, but then I remembered don't need to stop recording. You can just edit it. Oh, wait, we do stop recording on this. That's right. Then I just start over. We just don't have to break.